All right, welcome to CS Out here, number 13. We have our usual weekly recaps going, but we have something a little twist for today. Before we even start, we have we got to speak our sponsors, Refrag. If you want to use their services to train like a pro and be like a pro, use their services. Use the code NART to save 15%. Now, our usual recaps for weekly news and all the big stuff that happens has been kind of slow, so we're going to change the format around to around the horn type of setup. The concept is pretty simple. Me and Nart are moderating. I control the board. How many points these guys and these 4 guys can contest on topics. If they say something smart or have a good take, they get points. If they say something stupid or take a long time on stuff, you lose points. Everyone's at 0 points at the moment. And eventually, after round 1, one gets eliminated, 3 contests, and it keeps going until it's a 1v1. And the winner, eventually, you can say whatever the hell you want at the end. And if you win a lot of times, you can get a free skin from me. So it's good to compete on this show because you get free skins from Saga all the time. Which is always a huge plus.
What's not to love?
What's not to love about free skins, honestly?
From me. Not from a giveaway from me.
Yeah, specifically from you, yeah.
Exactly from me. Now, we have Nart, who's back.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Our first guest is Fi. Contestant number 1. We have.
I'm here. I'm here pretty darn often. I should be good at this now.
We have Paladin is our contestant number 2.
Poggers.
We have Coach KayJay.
Hello.
And we have ynoT FPS.
It's my first time, guys. Take it easy. I'm new to this. It's my first.
He's new to this. You never know.
You guys are my first.
Whoa. I don't want to be anyone's first or anyone's last.
Breaking them in.
Breaking them in. All right.
Breaking them in, yeah.
Now we're gonna start off with the. Biggest first topic of the day. We're gonna hit off on Blast. Now, on this stuff, since it's the first format, we're gonna just break it up there. You guys have any takes on the Blast format? How did everyone do? We'll start off with let's start off the new guy. ynoT FPS. What's your input on this?
My input, I think my biggest takeaway personally, like the thing that I wasn't necessarily like anticipating is that, first of all, FaZe bleed, and it's OG to make them bleed with their latest edition of Dexter. I think that that's like a really powerful player to pick up for any team, let alone going under the radars of a lot of international squads. But OG picking them up, seemingly already doing very well. And other than that, like Liquid with Yakindar turned their ship right around. As of right now, they've taken 2-0 wins off of both NIP and off of Heroic as well. 2 teams who are also maybe not in the best position right now. But either way, like I think that is a really good showing for a team that otherwise had very, very little trajectory prior to getting this pickup.
I like your input on FaZe bleeding and Liquid. You get 2 points off the start. All right, let's start with KayJay.
I hate this tournament. I think. It's
there we go. Point given.
Like, it's just a qualifier for a qualifier to play a qualifier that all these teams are going to most of these teams are already going to be playing in no matter what, right? Like, okay, you're going to the fall showdown. You're still a good chance of winning the fall showdown to make it to the fall final, right? I see like no point of this really, like for any of these teams, right? Like. Yeah, Liquid did well. That's a little confident booster for them to go into the RMR. But like a team like FaZe, like they were 100% not showing strats this whole tournament. Like they didn't play great, but like if you watch any of their games, they're just defaulting almost every round and just not doing anything fancy, right? So like you can't really take anything from these results, right? I think OG, they played really well, and they beat FaZe and they beat a few other decent teams, but it's all about the RMR, and I think all these teams know that, and that's why it's kind of a weird toss-up of results, to me at least.
All right, I like those points. So you're going to get 2 points off that. Paladin?
Yeah, I don't like this format at all. I actually despise it. I think the fact that we have BO1s to kind of introduce Pro CS back after a new season to new viewers and returning viewers, I guess. I mean, it kind of sucks because it's not the true form of the game. The true form of the game is going to be best of threes. And it doesn't actually allow any of these teams to actually get settled, because look at this. We have G2 coming in 4th place. Then they have to fight through the entire gauntlet. And even though they don't win against Vitality, they get to rematch them again. Like the amount of chances that all these partner team are just ridiculous. Like you get so basically you're telling me that you can lose all of your best of ones, you can win one best of 3, and then you have 2 more chances to qualify for the fall finals. And if you don't do it there, then yeah, again, you get to go down to the showdown, and then you get to try there again. So for me, it just like it feels very pay to win rather than actually being a great team. I don't know. I think that you can get and as an analyst, I don't think you can really get much in terms of like information about these teams. As KayJay is saying, like, I mean, I don't really know what I can say about FaZe. Like, are they actually back? Are they not? Navi had a stand-in for half the tournament. One best of 3 with Simple. Can you really get much out of that? Like, it's so hard for a returning viewer that's seasoned and has watched a lot, and it's also really complicated for a new viewer to also understand the circuit. So that's where I'm at on the format.
All right.
You know,
I'm gonna give you 2 points off that.
I got going for this, and why I kind of like this format. I'm gonna jump into my segment here, but one of the things that's hilarious, and I know everyone says, "Oh, they have so many chances. They won all their best of ones." 2 of the teams that topped their group that went flawless through it, and they came out first. They're in the showdown right now because they lost both of their qualifying BO3s. Astralis and Heroic both just flubbed out, if I'm correct. Yeah, there you go. Like, what the heck? Like, I understand it's like, okay, yeah, they got so many chances. But at the same time, we're at the start of this player break, and we're here to find out which teams are the best. That's why I like playing a very high volume of matches. I know it's a qualifier for a qualifier for a qualifier. But look, just considering the circumstances of this tournament, we're at the very beginning of the season. I think this is a fine format.
Yeah, it's just get your reps in time. You know what I mean? That's what I was thinking. I was just thinking that there's so many high number of games, like you get maybe burnt out, but you start out with the best of ones, like people are saying. I think that if you start in that way, it's good enough to the point where once you do hit the best of 3s, you got your reps in, you got your team built with a little bit more chemistry now on LAN after having, like G2 said, I think 10 days of practice or something like that. Like getting your officials in here now probably is going to benefit them a little bit more in the long run than say a team like FaZe who have already been together and like you said are running defaults. Like it makes sense to me at least.
We do a little bit of sacrificing competitive integrity, okay?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else have any more inputs? Because right now, fine, why not are winning at the moment. Anyone else?
Let me add something before you get to the rest here. I personally don't like this format because, like KayJay was saying, like these teams aren't really showing anything. Like I watched all the demos up until today, and I did not really see anything new. Like I don't think they're trying, but like at the same time they're not trying.
Like I watched FaZe versus I think it's OG on Inferno, and I watched FaZe run a default on their T side 15 runs straight. Like they ran one set strat, and they threw maybe 2 new nades I didn't see before. And it's like, okay, if this was the RMR, of course they're going to be running a lot more setters, a lot more innovative stuff, and they're just it's 100% they're just hiding it, right?
Yeah,
you guys say oh, they need their reps, but if I'm G2, I don't really need to play this, right? They have to because they're a partnered team, but I'd much rather get scrims in on the stuff I want to run for the RMR versus teams that won't leak my strats. Whereas this is you try to run your new shit, they're just gonna anti-strat it for the RMR. So there's no point for G2 and Vitality to play this. They just have to.
To open it up right now, how about some of the teams that didn't play that well, like Big, Evil Geniuses, and Complexity? Anyone have any takes on that?
Evil Geniuses and Complexity both placed last with Big in the thing overall, and seeing how Complexity went into this with the new AWP player, personally, not really a move that we'll probably talk about it later. Not really a move that I think is going to solve their problems right off rip. I think they were just hoping that they were going to put a band-aid on themselves and be like, okay, now we'll be good. And they go into this LAN event and they get mopped. They took one map, I think they took a map off of Navi, and everyone was like, "Oh, they're back!" And then
they are. Come
afterwards, they got slapped again. But I mean, for one thing, EG, they make this move and they come into this tournament with a new in-game leader. They had a stand-in for the beginning. They didn't get to get their team properly in place, and they took NIP relatively deep in a best of 3. I mean, whether or not it's the most strat-intensive matchups or whether or not they're trying their hardest, I still think on an individual level, that's something we kind of need to see from them moving forwards, is being able to at least go toe-to-toe in the aim duels at the very minimum.
Okay, so let me give a little bit of pushback here. So you're saying complexity winning a map is we shouldn't really care about that, but EG winning a map totally should. Like I don't.
In a best of 3, I would say definitely. Also against a team with a stand-in.
What do you mean the stand-in? I mean, the whole team was there. Look. The fact of the matter is, Navi still came in first in their group, right? They
Simple
still
came back, yeah.
But at the end of the day, no, I'm talking about in the best of ones. They still came first in the group.
Right, yeah.
With head trick. So
Head trick was fine.
objectively, the system of Navi was still a very competitive one. Complexity's best of 1 win can be very comparable to that of EG's 1 map win against NIP. I don't really see like why one is better than the other. Like it feels very similar.
They take 1 map, EG, and then they take them deep in a 3rd map, having not had one of their players there for the beginning of the event. Then Complexity take a map off of a team with a stand-in in a best of 1, and then get slapped afterwards. So I think it's a matter of just, okay, we just got our star player back into our roster, and then we start having a decent showing against a team that we are outclassed on most days. I think that that's a little easier to think than just, okay, this is a best of 1. Navi are probably going into this, and they're probably throwing it away a little bit because it's complexity of all teams. You know what I mean? Like they probably don't go into that with like, okay, guys, we got to do this. We have to beat this team. If we don't beat this,
but neither did NIP, right? NIP also said they didn't actually care about what EG was playing, and they left their
until they started trash talking, and then they were like, all right, we can't let that happen.
It just seems like it just feels like a really comparable argument.
Maybe. I disagree, but maybe. I think it's a little backwards. I think it's a backwards coin that we're flipping. A double-edged sword, if you will.
Since this is kind of like one of the first tournaments that kind of went on, who's a winner, who's a loser? I'll go with KayJay because he hasn't talked in a while.
I think EG's 100% a loser, right? Like they really needed to show something. They have promise, but like Cirque got outclassed in almost every op for op duel he took. Their best player in the whole tournament was probably Hexed, right?
Automatic.
Like stats wise, I don't think
He was
automatic too, but yeah, like Hex played the whole thing. I think he played solid throughout the whole tournament. I think automatic played good as well, but like those are 2 new add-ons. Like Tim's not as new as Hex, but like you've had Cirque, you've had Breeze there forever, and they're still like the 2 worst players on that team. Like I don't understand. And then you bring in a CIS IGL that doesn't really know English, doesn't really know their style, and it's just to me they'd have to show something great here, because I don't think they were hiding anything for the RMR. I think they were trying their fucking hardest, and I think they still came dead last. I don't think they're gonna make it out of the RMR. Right?
They have to get to it still, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
They still have to get to
Well,
it.
it's the NA1. Any team can make it to the RMR.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah, besides that, I think Nip played really well. I think Vitality with Spinks showed a lot of promise. Right? I think Big are not going to be the same with their moves. And I think, again, like Liquid, they got the confidence that they needed for coming first or third. So I think they played really well.
Yeah. That's confidence they need too, honestly, Liquid. We were talking about it before, but like when they have a Liege with a team of players who are like confident in their aim around him, that's just something that he feeds off of. And I'm excited to see when he finally gets into that mode where he's like that 1.2 carry player against a team where like it's not just like a tier 2 international playoff match. You know what I mean?
Now, I before you guys go on, I just gotta say, you're wrong.
Appreciate that, Anthran. Thank you so much.
Can we subtract points from Anthran? Is that an option?
Don't worry,
The ghost of Anthran.
he is always gonna be at negative points of all of his amazing hot takes he always has. So don't worry about it. It'll go on to the next show. Fi, you have any input on this? Because you've been a little behind at the moment. I'll let you catch up on points.
So like
Yes.
winners and losers when it comes down to it. I mean, sure, you can talk about all the teams that bombed out, but I'd like to highlight a winner. And what the heck, OG? I mean, the format may have just screwed them over. They came out almost dead last. They did come out dead last in their group. They lost their opening BO1s to teams that may have turned out to be a fluke, who have both gone to the showdown, get wrecked, Vitality. But at the same time, then they completely turned it around in the BO3s. Now, I mean, I've been informed with information from our analysts here on this podcast that, you know, teams here weren't really just unleashing their strat books in this event. So OG might have gotten themselves a ripe opportunity to go ahead and just scoop up an easy win, but even then, this roster still looked fine in their BO3s. I don't think they're like a top 5 team in the world yet, but this roster's definitely perhaps has legs.
No, I think OG's fucking amazing.
I think OG's
Dexter.
really good too.
I think Dexter's like actual like god among men. Like he's so good. And I think like him with Flames and Nexa is gonna be like a scary trio to go against during any of these tournaments.
And NeoFrag, goddamn.
True.
Oh my god. NeoFrag hasn't even hit his peak yet, and that's what scares me about this roster's rifling firepower is that Dexter can do all he wants with the AWP, but like once all the other riflers are on their like top peak form, it's gonna be really scary in my opinion. Because they're all very comfortable as far as I can tell in their roles in like a situation where it's like they're all coming from their own team where they were the superstar for the most part, like albeit in like different levels of the game. But I so far I really like how it's figuring itself out.
My actually one critique of this team is NeoFrag, believe it or not. I don't actually think he's performing with the same gas. Sure, they won their BO3s. I'll give him that. But this guy was a star player on Sinners. He was just taking all the fights that he ever wanted to on that Sinners roster, and he's not really able to do that here on this OG team. That's up to Flames, and
right.
There is a weak point to this OG team.
I don't think he's hit his peak yet, though. I just don't think that's the truest rendition of him yet. I'd like to hope.
I also think we're not talking enough about Fiku. I mean, I liked the flashes that he had at EPL with AGO, but I don't think that guy nearly was as great of a player as the community's making him out to be. I think he's got a lot to prove in terms of consistency. Again, we're still seeing a lot of flashes from him, and if we don't, I mean, he could be a huge sore point for this team if it comes back to bite them, especially with, as you're saying, Fly. If NeoFrag isn't actually consistent on this team, I think the raw fragging ability that this team needs considerably dips.
I think Fiku's playing one of their most bitchy roles around the map typically also.
Yeah,
so that's something
that's
he now
true.
has to really adjust to. He's super young, so I feel like Nexa might be molding him into a player where he can do that successfully, hopefully, because if they're going to do that, then he better hopes that it works, because once they start hitting that like higher echelon consistently, if he crumbles under the pressure, that means that the rug is right out from under that team, and Fiku is unfortunately going to be the one you point at, like almost.
Yeah, I'm not really liking the fact that we as a community continue, or not community, but just like I guess teams decide to make the youngest player the supportive element. I think another big proponent of that is like Vitality with Kyojin. I don't think they put him in the roles that needed to be. Masuta as well. You think about, I mean, obviously the jury's honestly still out on whether or not it's because of the roles or whether they just weren't ready. But then you look to even like Eternal Fire with like Xfloud, and I don't know. I just don't like that this is how they want to utilize Fiku. And I guess we'll see whether or not it actually matters. But for right now, I think that he is probably the lowest point for this team out of everyone.
I agree.
I see this team playing an old Cloud9 during the COVID. Like, they're all like average age 21, I think. Right, Next is easily the oldest on that team. Like, it's the same thing as Cloud9. Like, they're bit rocky to start, but like I feel like this team's just gonna grow up and get so fucking good so fucking fast.
Yeah, I hope so, dude, because this is gonna be a really fun, at least core to watch moving forwards. I feel like I think the average it's 21.2. Yeah, you're right. It's the average age of the team.
Guys, we have
I think...
Wait, one sec. Don't get minus points for talking too much. Remember that. That's the big rule right now. We gotta head out to another topic right now, and that's the RMR qualifier. And we're gonna hit on it really fast because it's gonna go pretty much. We're hitting on the EU that just finished in South America. We're gonna start off with 5 and see if we can catch up at any points before we don't want to get him eliminated on episode 1 right now. So
whoa, yeah. I mean, I just need to talk a little bit more here, right, guys? And what I will say, what the heck happened? I mean, Fluxo, shed some tears for that team right now, just immediately, right now. I require you to do that. They are not able to qualify to the RMR despite playing some of the most difficult teams in the region and bringing them every time to all three maps, keeping the series close. Like, they deserve to be at the RMR, and then they get upset in the last open qualifier by a team known as Audic, who definitely they're a respectable team. I won't lie, but They are not competing at the RMR. That is the biggest takeaway from this. And, well,
16,
we're not going to
14.
be seeing a team that was so slated, that looks so good right out from the gates. They're not going to be at the event.
That does stink, doesn't it?
The American
Biggest
the
upset of their RMR. No, there's no questions.
Of the
yeah.
entire RMR, you think that's the biggest upset?
Well,
Oh.
we're talking about the South American RMR
Oh, just the South
qualifiers.
American?
All right.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
They got 16-4'd actually in a
Yeah,
best
they
of
got
one against
slaughtered.
a completely different team, which is
They
like
got slaughtered.
ridiculous. I don't even know any of the players on this team other than Remix. That's the only
They're
name
a
I
decent
recognize.
team. They're a decent team is what I'll give it to them. But the problem, like, look, you're playing. Honestly, I saw the players even in good form from the Audic team. Like VSM was having a renaissance in form for this Fluxo team, and they still just got steamrolled. And that BO1 is gonna sit in their minds for a while.
Yeah. Also, not to mention the fact that Case Esports also bombed out here, which is a team that I actually slated to go through like almost for sure because I respect their in-game leader Steel so much. He put together a team of a lot of young players that Brazil wasn't utilizing that I felt had potential, and it was a matter of time, I hoped. But the problem with the team that is now kind of apparent is that no matter how many young players with potential he has, it doesn't really matter if none of them are going to stand out guaranteed. And he can't expect all of them to just maybe do that, which they won't and haven't. And I kind of think it's a shame because they just picked up Leo DRK, who is not really a fragger either in another young talent's place. So I'm not really sure what direction they take themselves in from here on out, though.
No,
We did
biggest-
talk about a winning team though in the South America Open Qualifier. That's Pain. Like Pain just looks so dialed in right now. They have so much momentum with Skulls and Zevi. I honestly didn't think that this was a move that would have had much of a turnout after losing Nithon, but it's clear to me that they have had a game plan for a while with this team, and they've just hit the ground running. I believe they're going into map 3 in the CCT series right now. But they cleaned house here. They cleaned house there as well in the playoffs. This team just looks hot to trot. I've loved watching Zevi kind of develop as a player, and now he's got his he's got a shot with Pain.
Plano as well. Surprised, personally. 2-1 over Fluxo to qualify.
KayJay, any input?
I think that you guys are missing the 100% the biggest loss of this whole RMR, like South America, North America. That's the number 6 team in the world getting clapped almost every qualifier.
Someone brought it up.
Movistar like some prize gets poached off Movistar. They pick up a young Spanish player and then they just crumble. Right? I think this team is done. I think the money that Movistar has invested in this team is going to waste, and like unless they find some crazy young Spanish talent, I don't see this team doing anything anytime soon.
KayJay, we were talking about the South America RMR.
I know. I'm switching to EU, man.
Okay. All right. Well.
Hey, I like his attitude. He switched the topic up. That's why he got that's why he got the damn points.
If you don't have takes on one topic, just get the other one.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Hey.
That's how he impresses me. He doesn't give a shit. He hits the points.
You're playing my game. I'm not playing your game.
Oh man.
So
If you want to keep talking about EU, though.
All right, EU time. All right, Entropic, they didn't qualify. I'm kind of pissed, to be honest.
I mean, their upgrade made so much more sense on paper. I mean, getting Mir out for Lackey, it felt like a slam dunk. I mean, the invites weren't there, but you thought that they'd get through all the qualifiers needed. I mean, we'll see them at Melbourne, but I mean, this needed to have happened, and they were so close. Even this final attempt as well, they lost to Sangal, or sorry, no, this is the third one. But they were close every single time, and they always got terrible brackets and terrible best of threes to close, and just teams in form. And I feel like part of it's unlucky, and part of it's just like I don't know, they just don't have any momentum to actually kickstart themselves again. They've got to go back to the grind that they had way back when with Lackey that got them to this point. But I hope we don't forget about them too much because this core is just too good.
Yeah, really good, like ridiculously good. I thought these players were going to get poached individually like a multitude of times across this year to other rosters when they were in the middle of their shakeups. And the fact that Mir got onto this team, I start to question maybe the leadership aspect of it and who actually is like taking charge of how the roles are structured around everybody, because you can't really make all this firepower work realistically without a good pedigree behind you, I feel like. like without an understanding of how you're going to break down your players across a map, especially with talent like Mir, who's a kind of big baiter, to be honest. Like you gotta kind of take your
You ain't
battles
wrong.
with that.
And meanwhile, Lackey is laughing all the way to the bank. He qualified to the RMR with Aurora, so I mean, is he really the winner? I mean, I sure hope so, but good for him.
He did do that. Sprout too, the international Sprout. Anyone want to talk about them? Because I could talk forever, but anyone else want to take a free?
That lineup fucks, dude.
There we go. Point given.
Sorry. Do you really need to explain a lot of this? Because, I mean, for those who haven't been paying
Sprout,
attention to the player that Lunks is an incredible fragger for this team.
Man is a stud.
What a find this guy is.
Yeah.
17 years old,
Ents
from
almost picked him up.
Romania, and he was just playing on a couple of just Romanian, just mixed teams together. Sprout take a chance at him, and this guy just frags up an absolute storm. I would be amazed if this team doesn't make the major.
Refresh is an in-game leader for this team also now, worth noting. Somebody who actually hasn't really had a whole lot of a second voice in most of his teams, at least outwardly. Kind of impressed, actually, that the fact that he put this team together with like all different nationalities and a multitude of other players and made it work this soon, this well. Like, I watched those games, dude. I casted them. That was impressive work, especially on their Vertigo. I'm really excited to see how they do moving forwards on a map like that.
And this team is hella young. Like,
Yeah.
this team has longevity. They have time to grow. I mean, again, I will say Refresh actually had to do a lot of the micro calls on Heroic alongside Katie in more site CT anchoring situations. It wasn't like broad, big picture, like secondary calling T sides or anything. But I mean, just the fact that he had the mind for the game and Sprout was willing to take the risk, and it pays off like this. Obviously, we've yet to see how he's going to play against top-level opposition, but I feel like the blend of experience, I mean, Refresh has been on Heroic and played those Tier 1 tournaments. Zypha's gotten a little taste of it with CPH Flames. And, Slacks and Stare have been playing on this team for a while, and they've gotten opportunities to play at Tier 1 tournaments. So it's like, I feel like every little bit of the checklist that you can check off for a team that is an underdog trying to break in a Tier 1, it kind of ticks all the boxes, and I just hope that none of these players get poached and they actually get an opportunity to play against these top-level teams for as long as possible.
For sure. But you guys are 100% sleeping on the best team out of this whole qualifier. And it's 100%
heroes.
100% bench heroes. Smooya is by far the best opper in all of Europe. I don't care what you guys say. I don't know if you guys watched their BO3, but this guy slaps. And he's been slapping this whole qualifier. Like, his team's whole boosted. He's dropping like 30 frags a map. Smooya, I'm on the Smooya bandwagon once again.
Oh, amen.
Dude, Fear has some surprisingly good English. Like, calling for a mix like this, like it was really sloppy when they actually tried during Antwerp, where they got a couple close opportunities. But in this one, he felt a little bit more dialed in. Like, he's gotten a little bit more experience to do it. This guy looked really, really good. I enjoyed watching this guy call for this team, and yeah, of course, Smooya did Smooya things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the L take and say if this team makes the major, I'm done. I mean, look, teams are not supposed to be able to assemble a mix unit and try and make a shot at the major. Party Astronauts almost did it. Don't forget that. But this unit here, surely there are other teams that are just more structured, that are more dialed in this team. And would we rather have like a team that had more structure to this than the Owens Butterfield meme team showing up to this RMR? Okay,
you have to remember that this is what Valve wants, right? Like, Valve doesn't give a shit what you think, right? But like, Valve wants
so many more mixes
zero to hero, right? This is the team that will have the storyline, will have bringing the viewership for Valve for the major, right? They want the 0 to hero. They want you to be able to pug a team, like bring a team together, pug your way through, and go to like big events. That's what they want. They don't want this partnered stuff, and this is what we're getting, right? We're getting branded teams like Aurora. We're getting teams like benched heroes. Like, this is why I love this format, because it's ruthless and it's great for the fucking.
Oh shit!
leadership.
I love the open qualifiers, but like, come on, guys. Like, EU, you guys can do better than this, right?
Guys, let's talk about.
All right, 1 sec. We gotta play this clip that literally after this happened.
Yumi says he can't hear it, only
Oh, you
dancing.
can. God damn it.
Okay, well, basically it was
Unlucky.
Yumi. I mean, it was Smuya singing that Copenhagen Flames and listing other teams that making fun of them that they didn't make it and he did as a pug mix.
Yeah. Pug Mix, talk about Pug Mixes, kind of new. Gamer Legion, they're putting together their new roster. Young Shui, or however it's pronounced, the in-game leader of Mouz NXT. He's making his way into this team with Acor, who's been out for a minute, and I'm so down for it all. It's such a weird mix of players, and if we're talking about Lonks being that beast from Romania, this kid is the next big thing also. IEM is so talented, and I'm surprised that he didn't get picked up by a different team, seeing while his was collapsing. So if I can see this team come together and Shui or whatever it's pronounced as, actually put together a cohesive game plan against teams that'll give him contest, I'm absolutely a huge Gamer Legion fan after this. Best roster they've had in a while.
Big takeaway for I'm game for this RMR, and like even for like South Americas and the North America ones is like there's so many like quote unquote no name teams making it in, but like for those no name teams, this is a huge chance just to like build their brand and be like make this a career, right? Like if you think like the Copenhagen Flames players before their double major appearances, right? Like they're basically nobodies, right? There's no chance they would get on with like Fnatic and EG and all that stuff, but they did well in the major. Now they're fucking cashing in, right? Same thing for like the
HooXi
Aurora
cashing
players,
in, dude. You see
Aurora
that?
players. Oh yeah,
Pro
right?
get
Like
8 kills a game and he catches in. Because
Three
Oh, yeah.
kills and a win.
right. But like some of these players, like during the RMR, are gonna make a name for themselves, and then they're gonna get the bag next roster change.
Amen.
Like G2 might pick up like Sprouts IGL or like whatever, right? Like who knows? Because you know HooXi sucks, but who knows?
Regali might go for a farm, honestly, too. These Romanians are popping out of the womb, bro. They're making them like that, these Counterstrike players. I don't know
True.
where
Let's-
they're
All
at.
right. One
Let's
sec.
talk about Astralis sweating all the way to the last qualifier to get in. Somebody want to talk about that?
They didn't even come in first after all said and done. But I mean, some of the hype building around this Los Cagutos rematch was just I've never seen something like this. For
That was such an
open
event in
qualifier game.
CS.
Yeah, it was like everybody was coming out of the woodwork saying they were going to stream it.
Yeah.
Like I think Sponge was talking about it as well. But I think that their run in the fourth qualifier was actually harder than all of the other ones, and I don't know. Like I was talking about it with Fi. I was like, they're not going to make it through this one just because it is so much harder of a route to get through. They had to beat Budapest 5, they had to beat Los Cagutos again, and then they had to beat Blue Jays in the round of 16. Who, I mean, I don't know if you guys have watched Blue Jays at all, but these guys are like a super
serious.
upset heavy team. BO1s are so dangerous against this squad. And then they had the 2-0 against Illuminar. But again, I think that was also like with the quality of teams that Astralis are losing to, it was like kind of like, you know, it's still a little iffy. So good that they got through, but man, did they had to kind of sweat it out in this fourth one because the results were kind of difficult. I mean, even again, you look at all these teams, they all got double digits, so it wasn't easy by any means.
I got to cast them for the first 3 open qualifiers, and let me tell you, the fact that Config was destroying House and they were losing these games is dumb. This man was tearing up the server in every single time. It felt like nobody was there behind him. Like, Blame F is a player who you expect to take over the game even when his entry fraggers aren't playing very well, because that's just the kind of player that he is. And he was nowhere for a lot of the games that actually mattered to them. Zipnix bottering the charts a lot of the time. Farlig actually having a couple of good outings, and Glaive is one that I actually am very disappointed in looking throughout all these matches. It looked like their defaults were sloppy, even if they were just running them just to run them. Each time it felt like they needed an entry pack. Glaive either wasn't there or he wasn't doing his job properly and their spacing was sloppy. And that's not something I expect from Astralis. They're at LAN right now. Like, they should have their shit together, relatively speaking. Like, it looked terrible for a lot of the games that they were actually like getting tied up in and losing.
I think there was one game where where Zipnix had to 1v4 or else
Right.
I think the whole situation would have just gone thrown out the window. Things like that shouldn't be happening. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Glaive and his defaults looked so off kilter. I didn't feel like he was in it at all. In comparison to their blast appearances, they looked much more. It looked like they wanted to play that a little bit more. They didn't make it to Copenhagen, so I mean, was it really worth it? But I don't know. I just thought that there wasn't enough preparation being put into this when there absolutely should be. Just fundamentally, I know you can't prepare for any of these teams, but you got to at
Mm.
least have a game plan with how
Right.
you want to structure this team out when you go in. And I think, yeah, he was a super sore point to me because I feel like these guys didn't understand the kind of pressure that they had, at least from the outside looking in.
All right.
Obviously, it's up for speculation.
We're going to move on to the next topic, but I'm gonna let Fi have a shot. Maybe get in some points.
Say something
Oh
funny.
boy.
No.
Say
Well,
something
no, one
funny,
sec.
You're
Well,
putting me
no.
against the wall here.
No, this
full ass stand up set. Come on.
this is the take I'm gonna give him. This is the take I'm gonna say. We're gonna talk about the NA RMR really fast. Do you have anything to say? Well, any teams gonna qualify or anything like that for the NA? Because that's the only one left.
I don't even know what to think about it
If
anymore.
Strife is in the tournament, there's no way E2 are qualifying.
I
That's
think 9Z is baller. That's all I'll say. Mic drop. 9Z baller team. Watch them.
they're cool. If they go to they're in the Americas RMR. There's still a couple more NA RMRs to run. What? Strife is still in the running, dude. You know the craziest thing about the NA RMR? Maybe it's not a crazy thing, but it's more of a sad thing. Since EGPA and EG Carpe Diem can't progress through, or it could be a cool thing, but we might see some upset advanced team make it into the Americas RMR and be able to attend an international event, which is just crazy that could even be a possibility. At the same time, with teams like Team One who are still in the running, and EG is coming to claim a couple, but there's a chance that some advanced team, freaking Carry Esports, the team that upset Team One last RMR, run it back again, and maybe you have a shot to make it to EU. I mean, shit, anything can happen in that America's RMR. I'm gonna leave it out to that.
One more thing before we have to do the first elimination round. How about Shocks not making it to the major?
Yeah, it was kind of to be expected, low-key, though. Like, I hate to be that guy, but this team with a new in-game leader, Shock's not in his best form, back in a role where he kind of needs to be fragging late round. It's kind of difficult to say that this team should make it through, but it still pains me that they didn't at the same time.
This team could be one for the future. I mean, I still
sure.
like this 5-man squad. I think it's always going to take a little bit of time to integrate Cuban into the lineup, and then also bring Stiko up to speed. The guy's super cerebral, has a fantastic mind for the game, but it is still always going to be a different kettle of fish when you are a supportive element for a team and then you get like shifted into becoming an IGL for the team as well. So I think that it's a bummer that Shox has to come into this situation where it's a complete rebuild and expecting to get through this brutal open qualifier system. But I think, at least for the future, that this team actually has legs to it, and I'm expecting good things for them just beyond the major cycles. It is a bummer that Shox couldn't replicate, though.
Yeah.
Well, they do get to come to Fragadelphia soon, right? Is that
That's
is
the
that
real
in?
W right there.
Just
Who
real dub.
And
cares
if they
about the
don't
major
win
round?
it, that's gonna be.
Who cares about the major, man? Frag is where it's at, man.
Saving
yeah.
strats for frag.
Facts, actually.
I mean, literally, they threw. The guy said, guys, we have to save our strategies. We got to beat these advanced
They
players.
saw the RMR schedule. It's like, oh dang it, we can't play frag now. Dang.
Have to prep for NBG 12.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Before we
if you
go
know, you
on, what do you guys think about the locations of the RMRs? So Asia / Australia is in Australia.
Stalking
I
think-
America is wild for
Yeah, I think the
EU's
elephant-
in what, Malta
It's in
or
Malta.
Sweden?
Malta,
It's Malta.
And then the Americas is somehow in
Stockholm.
EU and not in the Americas.
I think the elephant in the room is just that it is in Stockholm for the Americas minor, or god damn it,
What do you
the
want to call
RMR.
it? Yeah.
It is just ridiculous that this planning couldn't have happened sooner. I understand why it came to be, but I saw that like there was a tweet chain through like with Moses and Richard Lewis and whatnot, and it's like they knew that these kind of situations might happen for Dallas, and they couldn't actually reroute that. And the main people that couldn't attend were CIS players, and obviously that's because of the Ukraine conflict. But I don't think that issue would happen in the Americas. Also, why couldn't it happen in Brazil, right? Like, I think that the Americas players could come down to South America, or maybe just the South Americas come up to America. Like, I don't feel like enough thought process is put out for the Americas region, and to me, that just feels disheartening that our region continues to get left in the dust. No matter what, I mean, even Asia is getting to play within their region technically, like in Melbourne. They get to play it even in a live audience, bolstering that region as well in some way. Bringing in a live audience always helps in that case. And obviously Malta's they can put it anywhere in the world and it'll still do hella viewership. So I don't know. I just don't think it's a good experience for the players as well, because another way to bring up a region is to have these like just different region players. So you have South America playing in NA, like bringing up some of these advanced teams that can potentially scrim against them and learn. So it feels like an all around net negative. But at least some of these players get to play internationally. So like if let's say an advanced team does make it to Stockholm, then at least they get to play against some EU scrim teams and they get to learn a lot. So there's a bit of a silver lining there, but overall I'm a bit negative on it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. The first segment's done. We got a
really quickly. Asia. We didn't say anything about Asia.
It's Asia's. It's the Asian
Resident sleeper, man.
Yeah.
Resident sleeper. That's all I gotta say.
Tyloo's out.
Yeah, okay.
Tyloo plays 4th.
There we go. I'll give you a point for that. Now,
Ben Tet joins this roster and plays some of the worst Counterstrike individually and statistically we've seen him play ever, and they place 4th out of all these teams. Making it through, obviously, is a pretty good team, but even still, like, for a team who's been a staple of Asian Counterstrike as a whole, that's a big hit, I think.
Rare Atom is the future, baby.
Definitely
all right.
Tyloo's
All right.
no longer,
all right, guys. The first segment's gone.
So.
The first segment's gone. We have to eliminate one. All right, fine. I'm sorry, I gotta eliminate you. Now you guys, you can say something before.
I'm just saying, I'll come back stronger, all right? I'll come back. I'll be more elaborate. I will take down all your takes. All right.
2K.
I will rise again. All right, folks. That's all I'm gonna say. I have to. I'm peaced out. Awful scenes we're seeing out here. Do I have to like outro this? It's been CS out here.
If you want to, you can.
You're telling me when I leave, it's not over.
No.
Anyway, folks, I'll get out of here. Thank you guys for having me on.
All
right, guys. Now we're into the second section right now. We're gonna hit onto the biggest, the buyer drop rounds. Gonna move on down to here. Sec.
Go ahead and explain
the buyer drop. Buyer drop will be, I'm gonna ask a question, and you guys pretty much have to say would you agree with it or you just kind of like disagree, like buy or sell. So the first question will be HooXi comments right now. Do you actually see him going any further than the player break in December? We'll start off with the lowest points right now. We'll start with KayJay.
I don't understand G2's thought process. I don't know if you guys saw the interview with Simple. Like, it was Simple where he's just like, doesn't make. How do you go from a strat heavy IGL from the northern countries of Finland with Alexi, and then go like, hey, we need another strat heavy IGL from Denmark? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, they're basically the same players. Maybe style wise they're a bit different, but that wasn't the issue with G2 was their style. It was just, you need some, in a sense, like puggy style where Mouz, Hiko, and Hunter are just going to go kill people, right? Like, I don't think HooXi facilitates that. You never really saw that on Copenhagen Flames, right? Roy J played a lot more of a controlling style. Yabi did go a bit crazy, but still, it wasn't like Nico or Mouz go crazy like they want to. So I don't see him staying after the major, especially because I think G2 just going to bomb out. They'll make the MMR, they'll do well there, but like the actual major, I don't think they'll do that well.
All right.
To me, it just feels like there were a couple more options that could have been better for this team. I think Alex could have been really good, just because I think he works with the egos, or not even egos, it's just big personalities, like star power players with like the likes of like HooXi and Zaiwu and whatnot with that French lineup, and they did very, very well for themselves. And I think he made a lot out of a little with both the C9 rosters and the Fnatic rosters as well. Like, they look pretty good on Fnatic, but obviously chemistry wasn't the best there. But I mean, look, I think HooXi, the issue with him is that out the gates, you're kind of gonna have like a bit of like unknown factor to you, where other teams don't know how you're gonna play, whether the positions are changed up and whatnot. And now that kind of the jury is out on all 7, or not necessarily all 7 maps, but like most of the maps that G2 plays on, it's going to start to get to a point where they get targeted, and where he specifically gets targeted. And that is going to be really, really difficult, especially with the amount of game time they're going to get EPL. He's barely dropping any frags, even against Vitality. Look, man, I feel like people are touting him a little bit too much for doing very little for them in this in this game in particular against Vitality in that rematch. He had maybe 2 rounds of impact, and then beyond that, it was kind of piss poor. So I feel like there is a lot of expectation that, we'll kind of get him through these next couple of months. But I think I agree with you, KayJay. I'm going to drop on this. Maybe it's a bit too negative too fast, but I just can't see a turnaround of frags just instantly like that. Like, it's just not possible, and that in and of itself is an extreme negative.
Yeah, like if you look at his stats over the last like 2-3 years, Copenhagen Flames, a lot of their games were like tier 2, tier 3 games besides like the major, right? They weren't in many tier 1 events, and he's still dropping like 0.88 stats like every year. Like, you can't go from that against tier 2, tier 3 teams to dropping like decent numbers against tier 1 teams. It won't happen. He just doesn't. He might be a good at jail, but he just doesn't have it in him to frag hard.
All right, why
I'm
not?
also gonna have to drop on that one.
There we go.
First of all, just adding on to what Paladin had said earlier on, I thought Alex was a no-brainer, to be completely honest with you, considering his coach relationship was already there and present, and those two worked very well together to put a team of players who, in all honesty, was a ZywOo team. Like, they built themselves around ZywOo, and as they should have, because that was the formula that they needed to make work, and it did. And moving past that, it's just watching HooXi in-game lead this team doesn't make much sense to me as an in-game leader who historically has made the sum of his parts slightly better than what you probably would expect, and then goes into this team and it's like, I see JKS entering with the bomb sometimes and HooXi going in first. They're wasting like 20 seconds in the front of a bomb site after making their presence known with 3 or more players on an area of the map, and it's so confusing to me because this team seemed to be one at the very least who just needed somebody to rein them in. They just needed somebody to be like, okay, we're doing this strategy, I will go in first, you throw this utility, all you need to do is click on their heads. And that's, at the end of the day, honestly, like, it might sound stupid, but that's what this team really needs. That's really all they need. Like, they don't need more firepower. They don't need somebody to, like, come up with some absolute master tactic to get them into a bomb site with utility usage. At the end of the day, if their defaults are good enough and if they can get the spacing down pat, that's all they need in a team where HooXi can't be getting 2 kills a game. You know what I mean?
Nart, you want to say
It
something?
doesn't work. Especially with JKS as your 5th. I'm going to asterisk that also. I think that is a little important to this also, the fact that JKS is in the equation.
Like, I think if you have this core of a team, you should not be losing games. You should be contesting, and you should be coming first in your group every time. I don't care like what other people think, but I think Nico, Hunter, and m0NESY are one of the best. It's one of the best cores in CS right now, and somehow still they are number 14th in the world rankings, and they have not won a single LAN trophy this year. That is just astounding. That is astounding to me that something like this can happen for this long. Like, I don't feel like there is a vision for this. They're kind of just throwing money at the situation as to whoever is kind of in the community's hearts as the next up-and-coming person, instead of actually having a vision as to what the cohesive nature of this team is moving forward and how they're going to win titles. Because this just feels like something that's cobbled together, and it doesn't feel like a blockbuster move. And I think that is the biggest mistake about G2. They have all the money in the world. Why not pay for the buyout on Alex's contract at Fnatic? I don't know. That's just me.
All right, Nart, you want to say something?
Yeah, I agree with all your guys' statements about dropping HooXi, not making it past the player break. So what I think he needs to do, like, individually, like, he obviously needs to work on his aim and mechanics, and he needs to look at it from, like, Kerrigan's perspective, because Kerrigan had there was a time where he was struggling a lot fragging wise. And what did he do? He worked on that by practicing. And then more importantly, from an HLTV confirmed interview, he said that he asked his teammates like Rops and Twist, 2 of the most mechanically gifted players in the game, some advice. And he credited them for that success. And who does HooXi have on his team? Nico and Hunter, 2 of the best aimers in the game. So he needs to get advice from them and then work on his game individually.
That's a great point, Nart. I mean, talking about Kerrigan in particular, I mean, this guy was we're just dogged by the community time in and time out. This guy redefined how he wanted to play the game. Yeah, I mean, his entry style is so brute force, but he sets up all of his players so well that it doesn't matter. I mean, you look at his statistics, it seems irrelevant. And I'm not going to just say that these statistics are bad from HooXi, but you kind of also have to contextualize those statistics as well. Like, he's gotten some difficult roles, but he's not actually creating enough space for it to actually matter. And on the CT side, again, it's going to be abused eventually. EPL is going to be an even bigger proponent of that, and I don't think that this team has enough legs to kind of protect HooXi like how they might protect Kerrigan on phase.
All right.
I heard this Alexi B guy is pretty good.
All right. We're gonna hit on another thing of G2. There was a post from Richard Lewis. I want to know if you're gonna buy or drop on this. Richard Lewis says that JKS is Reddit's most overrated player. Do you buy that, or would you sell it? Are you guys selling that? We'll start off KayJay because he's the lowest of the points.
I don't get how anyone can say JKS is an overrated player when he's statistically the best player from a whole country. Right?
So you're dropping this take?
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
JKS is really fucking good. He helped FaZe win Tier 1 tournament. Right? When he was in NA, he was a demon in scrims and in matches. Right? That team wasn't the greatest in 100 Thieves, but he still was the star player for that team. Every team before that, he was a star player. Yes, he hasn't played in a little bit, and yes, he has had some hiccups with complexity and being a free agent and all that sort of stuff, but I still think if he's the best player in Australia, a whole region, then yeah, he's 100% rated correctly.
I will, just for shits, I will pick up this statement. I will buy this statement. Let me give you some statistics to actually contextualize this a little bit. 1.02 rating in his entire time on complexity. 1.15 rating on 100 Thieves. And mind you, this entire time that they're on 100 Thieves, I believe they only had a couple LAN tournaments before they went to COVID, and they were actually in the North American region where they farmed. So I'm going to just say that, I mean, hey, you did a pretty good job, but let's talk about the Renegades one as well. 1.09 rating on Renegades. And so it's been a very okay rating across all of his maps, but he's treated like he is some kind of savant for any team that he gets that he wants to be signed on for, and on all of this. And I just think that I see where Richard Lewis is coming from, is because they're considering JKS to be a star player when he isn't a star player. I don't think he's a star player. He is the best player objectively from their region, that's for sure. I think it's pretty safe to say. However, at the same time, I don't think that he is going to kind of revolutionize G2 and make them just an all-star studded team. You can obviously very clearly see people are like so excited that he dropped 22 kills against Vitality on Mirage. I think that there is still a little bit of I think there's a little bit of like recency bias to what he did on FaZe. That was a one-off tournament with a standard situation. There's absolutely zero pressure on this guy to perform. He gets to have a lot of calls called around him. As far as I can tell, I believe Kerrigan wanted to rejig the lineup in such a way that they made sure JKS was comfortable rather than JKS slotting into FaZe's roles. And I think that maybe I just don't think that he is all that. I don't think he is just the greatest ever. Like I think that he's a great player, but I don't think that he is as rated as Reddit might.
I respect that. And why not? I'll let you finish. Are you buying or dropping this?
I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to buy it for a different reason. I'm going to buy it for the fact that I think that he could have been one of the best players in all of Counterstrike should he have managed his career better. I think that he wasted his prime years, his most hungry era of playing the game in the teams that he was playing with, like the Renegades, the 100 Thieves. Makes a lot of sense for him from where he was coming from. But at the end of the day, he said in other interviews how many offers he was getting from teams where they likely probably give him a lot more space, as well as better individuals surrounding him with more experience at the top level consistently. Not to mention the fact that in complexity, I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. If you think that that was a good move to join complexity, that is silly. That was the most absolutely terrible career decision he could have made for himself individually, as a person probably at that time. Very stunting his growth at the age of 25, where he hadn't even reached his full potential yet. And then joining this G2 roster, like I said earlier on, not a bad decision necessarily, but it's one that you really have to weigh in whatever else he has available to him at that point, because you join a team where HooXi is probably not going to be what you want out of an in-game leader if you're JKS, having been around for a minute now. And then you look at these other players in your roster and you're like, okay, I'm probably going to be filling in a lot of gaps because they're not going to give me all the space that I'm going to want. which is just a JKS plague.
All right, KayJay, I see you shaking your head down there. You have anything to counter that?
Like, yeah, JKS isn't your like Nico or Simple or Zaiwu where he's gonna go and make the space, but I think he's one of the best players to just sit on a bomb site and just hold that bomb
For
site.
sure. No, he's definitely
Like,
good. I'm not saying he's not good or a bad.
100%. Like, and like stats, like yeah, okay, his stats weren't that great, but like if you're sitting backside nuke on A, like you got the greatest stats, but he will always hold that down. He'd always do solid, right? But like if you're thinking like yeah, he's a top 3 player, yeah, he's overrated. But if you're actually looking like role wise versus other players playing his role, he 100% one of the better players in his role.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next topic because we're gonna hit on to 1 sec. We're gonna move on to Mouz Sports. It was a big controversial move kind of this week that they just promoted extra onto the main roster and they kind of just bypass into the inactive. Are you buying or dropping this move? We'll start off with a Paladin.
I'm gonna sell on this just because, or drop. I guess just for the sake of the theme, but I think I'm gonna drop on this just because of one reason and one reason only. I think the timing of this is absolutely abysmal. What a way to just throw Bimas into the dirt. I mean, you qualified with this team very comfortably, mind you, through the open qualifiers, and as we've seen through other teams, is very difficult way through. Like it's a difficult process, and I feel like that should be rewarded. I'm getting a lot of shades of Bubsky on Astralis when they did very well and qualified for the major, and then he just got booted out as well. So it's just such a weird look for Mouz as an organization, where it feels like Cyclone is kind of like the dictator, and he's kind of just migrating NXT after he coached them for a while and just migrating them on one by one. And I get that there's a lot of promise on some of these players. Xerxin, frankly, was one of the players that I wanted on this team before JDC and Torji because this guy is just a beast. I think he's very, very good. But at the same time, I think that you had such a great Cologne result. I felt like everybody on the team was thinking, hey, this is going to be our resurgence. I believe after that one Cologne result, they like shot up on the rankings. Yeah, they're 5th on the rankings right now. Maybe I was fully expecting for them to believe in the roster for at least a major run to see where they were actually land. But instead, you're kind of kicking Bimas to the curb after he's been putting a lot of time to, 1, learn new roles, and 2, just play with a core that he's actually barely played with. So I think that this I'm just going to sell on this particularly because I hate how this organization has handled the situation. And I feel like this combined with what they did with NBK is just poor mismanagement, even though they have some great pieces.
You brought up NBK. Now, KayJay, do you buy or drop this? The timing and the whole take.
I bit of
just
both.
Took all the points.
Yeah, right. Like,
so
he literally hit
yeah,
every nail on the head.
Paladin's right. Like timing wise, this is horrible, right? But like, it's not the worst thing, right? They still have a few months for the RMR, right? I 100%. I 100% think Xerxin is a plus over BMAS, right? Xerxin farmed the We Play series. He was obviously one of the better players in that league, and it just makes sense to put him up there and just help Frozen and Torzi just frag, right? Like, I don't timing-wise suck, but like I think this team is actually deadly now with Xerxin. Like, if you watch him play in any of the We Play games, he just literally just runs around and just pops heads. Like, he's so much better than any of those players, and I think he's gonna be a top 20 player this year.
Oh,
why
bold
not?
statement.
Ooh, bold statement. I'll give the point for the boldness. All right. Why not?
All right.
Buy or drop?
Well,
Are you buying or?
I'm left picking up pieces and scraps here, so I'm going to turn my attention away from what the move actually means based on the player that they're picking up is, and what it more so means for the rest of the team now that he's actually there. So losing Rops, Bimas got better roles like across the board for the most part, as he was now like able to kind of flourish in a more frag heavy spot, which he kind of deserved for a while, but like couldn't afford to get because you have Rops in your team. Like, are you stupid? Rops is going to be the one fragging for you. And then they get Xerxin, and now I'm looking at this team and I'm saying, okay, if this doesn't work, you've promoted 3 members of your academy team, Frozen's still here, and Dexter has been here for this entire project and then some. At what point do you look at Dexter and say, what is he doing for this if Cyclone is the one who's managing everything from behind the scenes in terms of pulling up players? Because where does his say come in? Like, where is he fostering this talent from? What experience does he have at the highest level to give these players what they need to grow moving forwards? And on top of that, Xerxin has to also perform at a high level for us to know whether or not he can, because it's been a little longer now. It's been a little longer as we've gone into this process that it's like, will this player perform on tier 1? We have to hope, because this team is now 3 out of 5 players who aren't experienced enough to say, yeah, they'll win a grand final someday in the next year. And does Dexter have that much time?
Right. We have a really close battle now. We're gonna hit this up next topic. We're gonna hit it off with Big. Everyone knows Big. Like a top 10 team out there, doing good in some tournaments. The lineup's pretty sick. Now, what buy or drop? Will they ever win a LAN event?
Harm said drop. Or
Buying it.
nope, they're not.
Yep.
Like their
Ah,
best rifler is their IGL. Their opera is good. Their best rifler is good, but you have Keto, Fab, and Crimbo that just don't seem to be doing anything against these top teams, right? Like this team versus FaZe, like Rain versus Favin, like okay, Rain wins that. Twist versus Crimbo, okay, Twist wins that. Rops versus Keto, Rops wins that. Like yeah, okay, Searson and their opera good, but like Tabson versus Kerrigan good, but like overall, I don't see them beating any of these like top 3 teams.
Counterpoint.
Okay.
Crimbo's
Wait.
career just started.
a second. Let ynoT go really fast before
Go ahead,
Paladin.
go ahead. Yeah,
Crimbo's
You-
career
you-
just started. This guy has absolutely nothing under his belt to be put up against these other names in the scene right now, to be saying like he'll never win against a name duel against this guy every time. He'll never be able to open up a bomb site like this guy. He was playing Dust 2 in I think some of his first lands with this team, and he was shutting it down with a Deagle like in 3Ks and some of the most high tense, like you're playing against the best players in the world in your first team outing at this level ever. Like, that's a good sign, considering they also just made a roster move for their entry fragging player for somebody who's much better in the role. Tizian was absolutely not fit for the role that he was playing in and was shifted over for the matter of just conveniency. And I'm glad that they decided to bring Keto back, because in time, now that he's had a break, it looks like he's actually having a little bit of an awakening of sorts, having played with the academy team and gotten that little bit of that hunger back. And not even speaking about Favin yet, it's crazy to think that there are so many players on this team who haven't even found themselves comfortable just yet in a system where now they've got somebody at the helm who can run it down. They can just afford to have Searson post up in the back, taps and take the helm from the behind, and Favin and Crimbo cleanup crew. And I'm excited to see how that works out, because I think that Searson, once he finds himself on LAN, finally settled in after he's been inconsistent for like the better part of a year now, then they probably have a shot at winning an event. Will it be a tier 1 event? Maybe not, but I think that they'll still pull away with something.
Okay, first, the point that KayJay was making, comparing FaZe players to big players. April 18th, 2022, PGL Major Antwerp 2022 Europe RMR A, where Big absolutely destroyed FaZe in a 2-0 victory. But that being said, I'm still going to drop this. I'm still going to drop this. But at the same time, look, I think that this team is very good. I think they can get to top 5 somehow. Because look, I wasn't really very high on Tizian. I wanted him to leave as soon as possible, just because there was Keto on the bench fragging up a storm on the academy squad. So the core of this team is not bad at all. I think Keto's found his individual form again. So now you have Tabson and Keto. I think Crimbo's an incredibly clutch player. I felt like he had ice in his veins when he was playing on these big stages that I wasn't expecting him to have in other tournaments. At just this early on in his career, as you're saying, ynoT? But I think that that core in and of itself has legs to it. And then again, now you have to tie in Searson. Even if he's not consistent, if you have a pop-off performance, I think the core could carry you through something. And again, I don't think Favin necessarily has the most star-heavy roles that he would be carrying. I think he's a safe pair of hands. He proved it on Sprout, and I think he could do it here. I don't think that they're going to be able to win a LAN event just because the field is a little too deep in terms of firepower and tactics. That it's too hard to break through. But I don't think that this team is.
Gobby's back. The god.
That's true. That's true. We'll have till 2027 to actually have an answer to this question.
True.
All right, so good points, everybody. We're going to move on to the last topic of the buy or drop, with NIP trying to sell a device for close to what they bought them for. So the question here is, Should Astralis have bought him during the player break? If you agree, buy. If you disagree, drop.
Bye.
Let's go to why not.
Bye. Oh, I dropped my webcam. That's how passionate I was about this. Oh my lord. All right. Well, starting things off, the fact that they were trying to figure out an AWP player for the longest time, going through the young talents as much as they could, missing out on Nikodaz, and then having the option to buy dev1ce for however much it would have been, they're not going to turn a profit on this team as it stands regardless. So if they're not going to shill out the money to buy the player who will actually shift that for them, they will have the best core that Danish Counterstrike individually has ever had in terms of potential, in my opinion. BlameF, dev1ce, and Config all on the same roster under the leadership of somebody who's obviously no stick in the mud in terms of in-game leaders historically. Glaive is touted as the best in-game leader of all of CSGO. And if dev1ce really wanted out that bad from NIP and they let him slide under their radar, whoever gets him up is going to be spitting in their face as soon as they're disbanding and the team that has dev1ce is winning a major.
I think dev1ce only wants to join either Astralis or a top tier team, like Na'Vi, FaZe, like that sort of team. But those teams don't need him, and the teams that want him, I don't think can afford him, right? Like, yeah, the article saying the 6-figure buyout. I think it's like high 6 figures, right? Because you're thinking they bought him out from Astralis, right? That signing was huge, obviously, right? Plays, what was it like? Or 6 months or less with NIP, and now just sitting on the bench collecting a paycheck. Right, like NIP have to get a return on investment. dev1ce wants to join a top team and win again. That's why he's not playing for NIP, because he doesn't believe in that team. Right, like nobody can afford him. I think Astralis most likely approached him, but either buyout was too big or there's some sort of clause where they can get him next player break or whatever. I think dev1ce is going to go back to Astralis and will play under Astralis next time he plays. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
Just real quick, I don't want to take up Paladin's time. A fun fact that I have is the fact that for the time that he played with NIP, they effectively spent $125,000 a month for how long he was playing with them. Not including salary, but just on the buyout alone, they paid $125,000 a month to him just to play for that amount of time. Absolutely ridiculous.
I think Cologne was the worst possible thing to happen to Astralis. It sounds very weird to say, but I think it gave them a ton of fool's gold to what their successes could have been, as opposed to what their ceiling could be with other pieces. You look at the calibers of team that they beat, and it isn't the most impressive. But again, the objective result is that they came 3rd to 4th, and I felt like to them, it's like in the offseason, okay, well, we don't have to make an offseason. We just shot up the rankings to 4th place in HLTV. We came 3rd to 4th in one of the most prestigious tournaments of the year. So we don't need to make a move. But I think that if you have a core of Glaive, Config, and BlameF, I don't think you should be in the situation that you're in right now, where you're kind of like dragging yourself through the mud through these open qualifiers, and you did not qualify to your fall final in a essentially pretty easy time in the fall groups, because again they came first in their group, so they had a couple ripe opportunities to just win one best of 3 and qualify. But I think that dev1ce should be on this team if they did have him instead of Farlig. First of all, poor guy, like, and just hats off to the Astralis organization for just ruining multiple young players' careers and just destroying them. Like Lucky go back to Tricked, having to pick himself back up there. I know they're young. It's just like their stock tanks, and like the community obviously has to say somehow indirectly in some of these moves. And it just feels like, Bubsky doesn't want to come back and play. He's done with that shit.
Yeah.
And that guy was such a promising young talent. Lucky as well. And now Farlig, I thought he did very well in FPX and on Godsend, that he had a chance on this team to do damage. But clearly this isn't the right fit for him. Clearly there's a ton of pressure for him, that he's looking behind his shoulder every 3 seconds, that there's a dev1ce rumor coming out every other week that maybe he's coming to my team and taking my spot. And I'm sure that it's got to do a little bit with his form, like his individual form, as well as this pressure. But man, like it doesn't feel like any of the parties are winning in this situation, and we're still like I feel like all these productions are kind of like band-aiding the situation and saying, oh well, Astralis are still doing pretty well for themselves, and they're still doing. Oh, look at how great Zipnix did at Cologne.
They signed 2 of the biggest players in Danish Counterstrike in modern history, and
you can't
into
win.
a team that's not doing anything.
It's just a bummer that the core that this team has should be winning titles. It's like you've assembled Voltron in some senses,
Yeah, literally.
and you can't win anything. It's just a bummer in my eyes that it's a waste of time for these two in particular, Config and BlameF, because we know how long some players have in their careers to have like a little bit of a prime, and once it goes, it goes. It doesn't come back. It's very rare instances where it does, and you don't want to burn these guys' primes because they're damn good players. BlameF is like a top 5 rifler in some senses in the world right now.
Yeah, like the big thing is like you need a good opera to be a good team, right?
That's
like
what the meta is, right?
You saw Movistar, like Sunpius carried that team to a top 10 ranking, right? Almost a top 5 ranking, right? Like that team, don't want to shit on them, but they're not amazing, right? But Sunpius carried that team. You look at every other,
Dexter.
I'd say top 5 team, they all have a great opera, right? Besides Astralis, like Farling, don't want to say, but like he sucks. Like absolutely, just I think he's one of the main reasons that they lost so badly in the RMR, the qualifiers, right? They eventually made it in, but I think Farling just performed very poorly. You're playing tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 16,000 teams. You should be able to just post up and get those easy up picks, right? But like he's been missing shots, he's been mispositioned, he's been a complete liability for Astralis. And like what you guys are saying, like you have Config and BlameF killing everybody. You need an opper to get those easy frags, and Farling apparently just can't get those easy frags.
All right, guys, we're gonna try to do this catch up since we have a close freaking battle right now, and ynoT's losing by a little. But we have one more question. You guys, I say this fast. What is the best roster move so far? Very early take. Very early take. What's the best roster move that happened so far, and what is the worst? We'll start. We will start with ynoT. We will with ynoT first. He's low. Why not? Yeah, why not? Yeah, why not? Why not? The lowest points goes first. Sorry, Paladin.
All right. I am actually going to go with Spinks to Vitality because I think that's probably one of the biggest one-for-one quote-unquotes that happened throughout this season that isn't an AWPer. And I think that makes a team a lot more impressive considering you already have ZywOo, and the last piece that you needed was somebody who, in all things considered, could have just very well sat happy where he was and been probably fine, like just as fine off, if not maybe better. Hypothetically speaking, we can never know. But like moving down the stretch, like Vitality with the core that they currently have is a modern day super team. Like having a player like Magisk who's so versatile in terms of roles and in terms of what he can do for you in a team setting for supportive elements, aggressive elements, passive elements, anchoring bomb sites for you. He's just been around the block so many times with a teammate like Dupree and a coach of Zonic. Your whole squad is absolutely on fire from top to bottom. And the one piece that you needed, your bottom piece, you just upgraded to the max. That's the best roster move for me, honestly, by far. And then if we're talking worst roster moves, I'd probably have to go with ynoT in losing Spinks and now picking up Valda and getting Sunpius. I think that is a good move on paper, definitely, but I might be a little bit of a hater. I'm going to be bold with it, but I think that this is actually going to blow up in their face a little bit because they're not going to be able to rein in all their riflers as much as they would like to from top to bottom in terms of aggression and passivity. And I'd like to see Sunpius make the difference for them, but what I think is it would have worked if they kept Spinks, but now that they've got Valde, I feel like they're going to be pushing too far in the front and lagging a little bit too far behind in the back. That's how I foresee it happening, but if Snappy can rein it in to make it all work as a cohesive unit, I'd be wrong entirely, but I'm just personally not a believer in that.
All right, KayJay.
I think best team with the roster moves 100% is Heroic. Like Heroic's worst player now is probably Yabby, and that's not a bad player to have as your worst player at all. Right? Like you look at that lineup, it's super solid everywhere. Their style is amazing. Yabby is going to fit perfectly into that team, and I think easily like top 5, top 4 of this major, this Heroic lineup. Like, yes, he's not 1-for-1 with Refresh, but he's still, in his own sense, like, amazing player. Right? Worst, I think, is going to be, I have to go with Movistar. Right? Like, they got picked apart.
They lost a player, though.
Yeah,
I didn't know
but
we were doing teams that lost players. I thought
they also... Well, yeah, okay. I'll go Movistar and ynoT, right? I think both those teams aren't going to do that amazing, right? Like, Movistar got picked apart for being an org with such great monetary backing and doing very well at the end of last season, to get picked apart your star player and replace him with a very questionable pickup, I think they're going to drop very heavily in the rankings. And I think ends with why not was saying is just they seem very mismatched in styles and roles and that sort of stuff. I think why not says 100% correct. They're way too front heavy, and their back end is going to be lacking a lot.
Okay, I'll stick with Dexter on OG. I think he was probably one of the most valuable free agents on the market, period. And being able to lock him up as OG, that's just a huge win for them. Again, we did talk about it. They are very aggressive, but the core of this team can just frag their way through a lot of these games. That you can have the potential for some of these players to drop off in performance here or there. But I mean, we talked about it at the very beginning. But Flamesy, Dexter, Neofrag, these guys should be taking care of business. And then if you have a occasional pop-out performance from Fiku and Nexa, then you're hot to trot. So I think this team is going to do a lot of damage. I think they should be the favorites to win Melbourne. In a little bit of time, and I think they should comfortably get through the RMR. I'll say something a little bit more unorthodox. I'll say NIP it had the worst roster move in the fact that they didn't have any. I think that Rez, Hampus, and Brolin are an incredible Swedish core. They've done a lot of damage. With the pieces that they've been given, but I don't think Esatag is an opper. I don't think he'll ever be an opper. I don't like that people are saying that he will be at any point in time. He just isn't it for me. I think he's a much better supportive element to the team. I think he's a better supportive element than Plopsky. I think Esatag should take Plopsky's roles, and I think they should just bring Knockback or just any other Swedish opper. I mean, there's a lot of options in some of these teams. I think that this NIP squad could be much better. Not a lot, but I think they're enough for there to be a viable option and an upgrade over Esatag that I think this team could be a lot better than it is, because I think that tactically this team has done a lot to fix a lot of their mistakes prior. Their T-sides used to look abysmal, but the work that Hampus and DJL have done, they've looked much better. I think you just look at their cohesiveness on a map like Inferno and the fact that they look so good on the T side of that map. After that was one of their worst T-sides on all 7 of their maps. That in and of itself shows me that this team has the core in terms of firepower and tactics to actually bolster a chance to break into the top 5. I just think those last 2 players is just a mismatch in roles, and their services could be served better elsewhere.
Nart, you want to say something?
Everyone had good picks besides KayJay.
What the hell, man?
What? There were so many better roster moves.
Nope.
No offense to Yabby, but nobody said Yakinder. Come on, guys.
It's not official yet.
See, I didn't count that as a roster move.
Okay.
It's official. You can just say it's official,
It's
man.
still very good.
All right,
It's
guys.
amazing. I mean, honestly, I could make an argument that it is the best roster move,
Yeah,
because
could.
Sure.
look, the synergy that Yekindar has with. I'll make the argument. Hey, you're giving it to me. I'll take the argument.
Hey,
I mean,
well, one sec.
Yekindar's synergy with Daps and Nitro. Like, Nitro's been saying for ages that he wants to integrate EU talent or EU tactics into his pool. And now he's got the perfect person to do it. Jame Time is now in Liquid. So, like, it's fantastic to see that there's actually a kind of a rhyme or reason to how Liquid likes to play their slower rounds. And then you also have just the unbridled aggression that Elige Naf can just turn on into, like, 11 with Yekindar at the helm. Like, I think this team is really good.
All right, guys.
Points for that,
I love Liquid. All right, guys. We have announced the winner. Sorry, KayJay, with the jab,
It's all
saying
good.
you had to lose points for that. That's the first minus points of the day. So I'm sorry for that. You can stay here for the clutch round because we're literally almost done right now.
I'm gonna have to 1v1 here.
All right, it's a 1v1 round.
Oh, let me get the poll set up.
The poll set up. All right.
But KayJay, do you have anything to say?
You guys don't know Yabby's the best player in the world. You guys don't know anything.
You don't know him like I do.
You don't know him.
You can
Like
say
I do.
You can say in the call because it's not gonna
That's
take that long.
alright.
Yeah. But that comment, you guys said all the moves, but that one, man, you already got a points.
Start the poll. Do you
All
guys
right,
see
so
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
1 second.
Vote on who do you think is going to win this.
Gotta vote for myself.
I'm gonna vote for you
Selfish.
too.
1 minute. So.
Oh, wow. Why not? You're so
Psych.
kind.
Woo! Hey, baby.
All right.
GG.
All right. The first section. Speaking to 3 sections really fast.
All right,
So-
I'm gonna end poll there.
All right.
Oh my god.
Stop the count.
Nobody loves me. Jesus.
I got my boy Anthran in the chat. He'll always support me. If I have 100 fans, Anthran is one.
All right. First section between ynoT and Paladin right now is the CSGO 10th birthday. They said it. The quote itself. It says right here. I'll pop it up on the screen. You guys see it? It says, on this day 10 years ago, Counterstrike Global Offensive was released. 10 years and countless updates, memories, and moments later. We're excited to see CSGO just get started. Thank you for playing alongside us. Here's the next 10 years. And they mention, and there's more to come. What is that more to come? We'll start off, ynoT?
I'm gonna say a whole lot of nothing. I think
I like it. I like it.
Trying to just bait and tease us with all these things and give us hope that there's something big coming, and then once it actually does, they're just gonna sit on their hands about it and act like they just gave us God's gift, and then after that, we're just gonna rinse and repeat the same cycle. And I like for that not to be the case, but it's happened before, and it's happened before in multiple other games, and I don't see Counter-Strike being very much different unless they decide to support us in ways outside of actually working with Counter-Strike Global Offensive directly on the development end. Because I've been hoping for Source 2 forever. I've been hoping for the map changes forever. We've been consistently complaining about the fact that we don't get new maps into the map pool and that we don't get our operations on time. And I think that for us to have gotten to the point where we are right now, it's just a little crazy to expect that Valve's just going to drop some nuclear bombshell on our head and be like, oh, look, we're the great developer that you never had. Like,
Paladin?
Okay, conspiracy time. I'm just going to morph into the sticker conspiracy. They're going to do everything. They're going to bring Source 2. We're gonna get a complete ladder chain. We're gonna have ladders in matchmaking. We're gonna have a matchmaking revamp. 128 tick servers. You know what? Why not revamp the operation system and have just actual more story missions so that it actually feels worthy to buy the operation?
You think they will?
Hey, I'm just doing this for the points, man. But look, I think that they have so many things that they could possibly do to make this the greatest esport ever. It already is the greatest esport ever, but why not make it just even better than it already is? So I think that they are just getting started, and we'll get all of this next month.
You
They're fast over there.
You said something a little stupid right there, Paladin. Next month. You had it good until you said next month, man. Ouch.
Oh, come on. You can read the copium on my face from the very beginning. That isn't even that much of a lapse of just thinking.
All right, we'll go with the next one. So far, it's tied. I'll be generous for today. All right, Tuscan, what map is it gonna replace and why?
You can start Paladin because I started the last one.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to replace Dust 2. I think the overall agreement from the community, at least from what I've seen, is it's going to be Mirage. And I do see the reasoning for it to be Mirage, but the reason why I think it's going to be Dust 2 is that there hasn't just been enough depth in change of the meta for it to feel like it's an actual viable map. I think tactically it's pretty one-dimensional. I don't think that there's really like any revolutionary strategy that's going to come up that's going to change how we perceive Dust 2. I think it's one of the least picked maps now because like at tier 1 tournaments at least, because it's just not that fun. It's not that fun to play even in matchmaking. I don't really like playing it either. I think there are other better puggier maps in the pool to play, like Ancient is right there, Vertigo is right there. They might not be fun maps to watch, but they're hella fun maps to play. And so I think that in and of itself makes it a much better map than Dust 2. You're gonna have just a return for the nostalgia for all the older viewers to reunite a very old nostalgic map, and then you also have the chance to bring something in fresh for the new viewers who probably haven't experienced Tuscan at any point in their lives. And look, the thing about Tuscan is it's a widely different map in comparison to anything else in the pool. So again, we have a bit more flexibility for a lot of teams to kind of follow which identity they want and what kind of maps they want to associate themselves with. So like if you have a more puggier style team, you can flip to more of a Vertigo Mirage. And if you want to actually go more tactical, you can go to a more Nuke and / Inferno. And then if you want to go to a little bit more of an unorthodox map, you can go to something like Ancient or Tuscan. So I think that it's going to have a little bit more of something for everyone. And I think if they take out Dust 2, it's the best possible move.
All right. Well, in my now different argument for a different map, I think it's actually going to be Overpass to be taken out. Overpass has seen a dramatic dip in play recently, as Mirage has been still one of the top 2, top 3 maps being played consistently at a top level on LAN. Even still, the meta is still being changed. It seems like almost every day someone comes up with a new way to do an around the world strat on Mirage. So I think they're going to squeeze every drop out of that map until they can't. Personally, and seeing as Tuscan is a map where it's almost like not linear in the sense that Mirage is, I think it would better fit to replace a map in the pool that isn't as puggy, I guess, in the sense like Overpass has like a verticality difference on it to where you can run a ton of different rotations around the map, up, down, and throughout. And Tuscan is a map that has a ton of different rotations you can make work, as well as boosts and things like that. Very reminiscent of Overpass historically and presently, which I'm very excited to see how like professional teams are going to make work. And I think that Overpass is just, like I said, slowly making its way out of the top tier of the meta. Despite me thinking it's a really good map, I think that, like I said, they're just going to squeeze every little bit of life they can out of Dust 2 and Mirage.
I can love Mirage. I can love Overpass. I don't want that
I
pool
do
to go
too, man.
anywhere.
I fucking love Overpass.
Yeah, I mean, I do see what you're saying though. It isn't necessarily like one other thing is a big thing is that the casual fans also have a bit of a say. They do look at queue times for some
Yes.
of these maps, and Dust 2 is still being played quite a bit. And yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying. Overpass is probably gonna face the same fate as something like Train, where
Yeah.
I love Train as a map,
Yep.
but I think that it's a very difficult map to understand
It's
because
easier
there's
to
a
learn
lot of
Mirage.
it's a very difficult map to just kind of throw. Like you need the utility on that map, and to know those for the casual fan base, that's a little difficult.
Try
So I
going
don't know.
B in a MM game, man. Good luck. Good luck going B in
Yeah,
an Overpass MM game.
but I can see the reasoning as to why you would pick Overpass.
I'm gonna say Mirage because it hasn't been changed in forever. What do you think, Saga and KJ?
I'll go KJ. Guess yeah. Let's see if he gets any points and make a huge 7-point dip. Come back up.
Yeah, let me try this crazy comeback here. I don't think it's gonna be Mirage. Like, yeah, they haven't changed it in a while, but if you look at pro play, Mirage is still being played a decent amount, right? You look at like amateur, like whatever you want to call it, like matchmaking play. Mirage is one of the most played maps, right? Like, there's no way Valve takes that map away for like a Tuscan, right? If they would bring back maybe like a Cobble or like a Cash, I could see.
I think Mirage will go for
He
that.
said Cobble. He said Cobble. I'm bringing in some points. He's coming back.
Right?
So,
I love Cobble. Cobble's literally the greatest map in the whole world. But
oh my god.
Cash for Mirage, Cash for Cobble and Mirage, right? That makes sense. But Tuscan for Mirage, I don't see that happening. It has to be more of the less played map. I'd go probably with Overpass, right? Maybe if I want to throw a curveball, maybe Inferno. But I think definitely Overpass is going to be.
Okay, that's why he's.
All right. Wow. Inferno, man. You had a comeback home of Cobble and Cash, but Inferno, sorry.
Come on, man.
All right, last question time matchup right now.
Oh my god.
We're going with the rankings. We're going with the ranking systems. You know how this week there was a update in the rankings with
Yes.
Navi overtaking FaZe. Is there a better way to like rank these teams instead of HLTV rankings? Would you say?
Are
Yes.
you saying like is there a different like actual system
Yes.
it goes through?
Yeah. Would you take? Was there a better? What can you like devise a plan to make a better system or like a week? Just not like. What's your take on it?
I think that the current way that HLTV ranks their teams weighs too heavily on results that are old. I think that they weigh down way too heavily on results that are A, old, and B, they have their tier list set at S, A, B, C, D, whatever it's ranked at currently, like big events, majors, things like that. I think that they weigh in a little bit too heavily on that without having like actually devised a plan of being, okay, what makes an event S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier? Because you go into some of them and you see it's very top heavy sometimes. And Astralis, for example, can just go into the bracket and be like, yeah, I'm going to crap on all these teams right now and then get all these points and stay as number 4 in the world despite having done nothing for the past half year of my existence, 2 years of my existence having won a major. They just ride along that in the top 10. Like, no offense, but a team like Astralis is a team with a pedigree enough to where I shouldn't be like, okay, let's go into the rankings. What did they do? Oh, They placed second at Pinnacle Cup Championship 2022. Oh, okay. Who was there? Finest, Imperial, Fnatic, EGPA, MIBR. Oh, okay, cool. Like, dude, like that should not be what weighs down a team of this nature. So yeah, that's what I think. I think that it needs to weigh less on old results as well as better define from top to bottom what it makes an event the level that they describe it as. Because I think that they don't have very much of an idea at this stage either.
I'll give another example. I mean, Mouz coming in nearly last at every single tournament that they do. One semifinal at Cologne shoots them up to 5th place. Meanwhile, you have Movistar, who goes through Valencia and absolutely smashes the opposition and batters through and comes in first there. And then, as well as on top of that, they actually succeeded at Cologne to have a very deep run as well. And they're still below Mouz, who had one good result at Cologne. I don't think you can really count them to anything else. And they're 5th. And so just even in that weighting, I don't feel like the lower tier events are getting enough polish as well. Because again, Valencia's teams weren't the worst, I don't think. Like I believe Furia was there, Outsiders were there as well. And although those two teams, like although Furia bombed out of that tournament, I still think even Sprout was there. Sprout was looking at least decent in terms of like what do you say, like in terms of like just on paper potential wise, they had chances to convert, and they just couldn't. So I just think that the A tier tournaments, that what they classify as A tier tournaments, aren't given enough prestige, and people are giving too much people at HTV are giving too many points to just coming and existing at some of these tier 1 tournaments.
Like Global Esports Tour Dubai, by the way. This is helping your point, kind of. It's helping my point and your point at the same time, but just go look that up for me real quick. That's why Mouz is there. It's stupid.
It's I think the A tier, the partner team situation is completely screwing how we perceive the rankings, because some of these teams come in dead last. And I mean, obviously EG is like an exception, but like, but Complexity and teams like that of that nature who haven't done necessarily anything are still top 30. And in some ways, I feel like a lot of these teams below them and even above them should comfortably beat Complexity as of right now, that they shouldn't be in the top 30. But since they're a partner team, they get to attend all of these pro league events, all of these like ESL partner team events. It completely boosts their rankings, and they had one great result at Blast, if that, and they jump up 17 points. And while I do like the Hulzberg move and whatever, it's still, I'm trying to prove a point here that I think that the partner team situation completely hampers how we perceive these rankings.
With that, I'll say Paladin wins. Sorry, why not? You have done on the first show. You hit on so many some good topics, and come in second place on this opening show. Any last words before we let Paladin close us off?
I regret nothing.
You did good on your first show.
Why not bald this episode?
You balled hard. You're gonna win eventually. You probably gonna win next week.
Yeah,
who knows?
Surely. So it was great having me here, guys. I really appreciate everybody. NartOut especially. Like you're somebody who I've looked up for a while now in terms of content. So I really do appreciate being here with all you guys. So thank you so much.
All right, Paladin, you can have your minute speech if you want. Talk away.
I love Liquid. I hope they win a tier 1 tournament in the next couple of months. I expect them to win Rio. Go Liquid. Thank you.
You can say any more you want.
That was the shortest speech.
You can say whatever you want. This is your minute. You can say whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
Whatever you want. You have a minute, man.
Sub to Paladin's Alliance. I'm doing some good shit over there. I've been enjoying working with Ficast, but he dipped as soon as possible. But shameless plug over there. We're doing a lot of good work with Not Acceptable. If you liked Around the Horn, you might like Pardon the Interruption over there. So we're doing all kinds of ESPN copy content. So that's really fun. And I guess just keep an eye out for some of my other stuff in the future. Glad to be here. Glad to enjoy being on the CS Out Here podcast. We've had some good episodes, and I like this format. This format was fun.
Thank you so much. This is the first. We haven't found a name of it out here yet, this segment, but we're just calling it CS Out Here number 13 so far. But before we close off, I have to say that we have some guests we're going to have coming up in this week and also next week, we'll interviews with some pro players. We have NBK coming up on Friday and Get Right coming up next week Tuesday. And we're gonna also just want to announce we have a sponsorship coming up starting in September 1st with Underdog Fantasy. We will have more details of what we're gonna do with them and all the stuff. First, we want to thank with them before we start. Nart, you want to close us off?
Yeah, I appreciate all the guests for coming on for this first episode of this like game show that we're having for this recap that we're going to move on forward with. And yeah, hopefully you guys come back for the next one.
Hey, you guys want to say anything else before I close off?
Happy to be here.
All right, man. This is from CSGO Out Here, number 13. Everyone have a nice night. Peace out. Go NA, even though it's going to start very, very late. Peace out. Hi there, everyone. CS Out Here with Nart and me Saga. We want to announce that we got a brand new sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, one of the premier sports books for CSGO, and also one of the best sites for your fantasy sports needs. With our new sponsorship, we will dive in with prop bets for CSGO matchups throughout the whole season. But before we begin to show you the website and how to make a bet and everything, we at CSGO Out Here do not support any underage gambling. So please gamble responsibly. Nart now is going to show you how the site will look and how you make the bet. Do you take it away, Nart?
All right, so first you're going to click on Pick'em. And then once you go to Pick'em, you could pick either any of these sports, but we're going to do esports here. And then for the esports, you could click on each game here. So let's say for this first game here, HSPR versus ECLT, they have these prop bets. So will this player get more than 14.5 headshots on maps 1 and 2? If you think it's over, that they'll get more than that many headshots, you click over. And then if you think this player will get more than 33.5 kills on maps 1 and 2, click over. And then for the next matchup, Daitor, if you think this player will get less than 39.5 kills on maps 1 and 2, click under. Less than 20 headshots on maps 1 and 2 together, under. All right, and then so on here. So you could have up to 5 bets on one slip, and then you put your amount here. So I put in, let's say, $5. So since I put in 5 bets here, okay, there's a multiplier for each bet I put in. So it's going to go up to a 20 times multiplier. So my payout, if I get all these correct, is $100. So that's how you place the bet, and hope you guys have fun.
All right. Before we begin, also make sure to sign up with Underdog Fantasy today. The link will be in the description and comments below. And the promo code for Underdog Fantasy is NART. With the promo code, Underdog will match all your deposits up to $100. So right there, have fun gambling. Also, you can hit on their other sports and fantasy football, basketball, and everything else in between. Saga and Nart here with CS Out Here. We're closing out. Have a nice day.